Okay, for question one, I really enjoyed watching that TED Talk as far as her talking about the narrative that she grew up with, the things she's reading, the things she's seeing on a daily basis, and how that affected her personal views. I think that's incredibly important in our lives to make sure we examine a diverse curriculum, right? And studying different resources, studying different text from different writers to understand where we came from and to understand differing viewpoints. I tell my kids in class, my history class, that we read from the textbook or we read from a primary source or we read from a website, and all of those have inherent biases or agendas in them based on what you're seeing or how you grew up or the environment you lived in. And it's important to read those things and to make sure you form your own opinions about stuff, right? Collect as much evidence as you can. When reading articles, we do a weekly news article thing every couple weeks. And I always tell them everything you read, you have to make sure you understand where that came from and understand that there are biases in everything and that you should take everything with a grain of salt until you can confirm it for yourself. So, breaking down the walls of stereotypes and trying to walk a different path than something that someone may have created for you through their experiences or their lack of experience, right? And I think in our classroom, it's important to include everyone, when it comes to race, class, gender, everything, and to study different viewpoints of. We do a good job. I feel like we do a good job in my class of studying the viewpoint of Native Americans. When we're talking about pre-Revolutionary War America and U.S. history, and understanding some of the plights of Native Americans and the Indian Removal Act and things like that. It's amazing to me. Kids sometimes don't understand the things that Native Americans went through or African Americans went through in slavery. And so teaching those kids and seeing them learn and understand how much different life can be, is something I feel like is important, and I feel like is part of my job as a history teacher is to show kids those things. And again, making sure everyone in the community is seen and heard and feels like they're a part of this and that they understand that. And then as far as question two, watching those videos, I couldn't even hardly make it through. It was so rough to watch. Seeing kids in those situations, seeing the things that they have to go through, and I really felt a deep connection to that. The area that I teach in is a very underprivileged area. I think something over 50% of the population lives under the poverty line here. And it's apparent in my classrooms. I mean, from kids, sometimes looks like they wear the same thing every day. I know one of my kids said it's cold and he's wearing shorts. He's like, "Wow, how many pants?" And so I really reach out to those kids. I know I have one particular kid. He's very intelligent. I mean, he's off the scales. Grew up in elementary and gifted and things like that. Lives with a family friend. I mean, I think his dad's in jail. His mom is just not really in the picture, and it's difficult to watch. He's such a good kid, such a smart kid, and I've taken him to the grocery store. I mean, to the gas station, in the afternoons, or taking him home after practice, or doing things with them. I went to church with them on a Wednesday night, and they do like a bingo thing at their church. So I try to show up for these kids and show them that somebody cares about them, even if they're in a difficult situation. And it's important. I get so frustrated with other teachers who just pawn these kids off, or just you write them off as well, they're a failure, they're never going to make it. And I just don't believe that. I think it's up to us. If no one else is willing to show them that they care, why would they care? The one kid who said he felt like he quit going to school and no one even noticed, and that's just, when I'm on, I have a few that I know are in difficult situations. They don't show up to school. I'll text them or I'll send an email or something and say, "Hey, where you at? What you doing?" and I always tell them every day, on Fridays, have a good weekend, be careful, and they know if they need me. I tell them, if you need me at any time, right, if something happens and you're stuck somewhere or you're in a bad situation, please text me or call me, and I'll come get you, and I'll take you home. And so making these kids feel special and making them understand that you care about them or someone cares about them is the most important thing. I mean, obviously, as a teacher, the number one indicator of whether a kid's going to be successful is if he has parents that are holding them accountable. I mean, parent involvement is the number one determiner of whether a kid's going to be successful. And so these kids that don't have that option or don't have that in their lives, they got to have somebody to hold them accountable, especially some of these young athletes that like to play ball, play basketball, or play football. I do not hesitate to go talk to the football coach or the baseball coach, or me being the basketball coach, handling those situations on my own, and making them understand that they have to be accountable for their actions. They have to show up and do what they say they're going to do. But being there for them and showing them that means more than anything. At the end of the day, I think educating kids is what teachers are supposed to do. But raising these kids to be good students and good citizens and to be responsible is really what we're here to do the best right by the kids. And I truly believe that. And that's one of the reasons I got into teaching and coaching, is to do that for young people. I think they need more of that. Now, overall, I've really enjoyed some of these vlogs and this term, and I really appreciate everything. Thank you.